There is absolutely no shortage of legendary college football players who flopped in the NFL. Guys who made easy work of their NCAA opponents, like Ryan Leaf, Brian Bosworth, Jamarcus Russell, Ron Day, Tim Tebow, and Tony Mandarich. Guys who just couldn't quite put it all together once they made that big jump to the pros. But you know, some of the greatest what-ifs in NFL history are the ones that never transpired. For various reasons, some of the best players in college football history never wound up playing a single snap in the pros. So today, here are 10 such players who never turned pro after lighting it up in the NCAA. Ernie Davis. The case of Ernie Davis is one of the most tragic sports stories that you'll ever hear. Davis was a superstar running back at Syracuse under legendary head coach Ben Schwartzwalder. Davis played there from 1959 to 1961, recording 2,386 rushing yards and 20 touchdowns. Jaw-dropping totals in those days. Davis led Syracuse to a national championship in 1959 and was named the 1961 Heisman Trophy winner after rushing for 823 yards and 12 touchdowns. He also received the Chick Harley Award in 1961, which was then given to the College Football Player of the Year. There was immense hype around Davis, who was drafted first overall by Washington in 1962, only to be flipped to the Cleveland Browns soon after. Davis signed his rookie contract and was set to join forces with legendary running back Jim Brown, who was in the back half of his playing career. Tragically, though, Davis was diagnosed with leukemia before beginning his 1962 rookie season. Davis underwent immense treatment, but unfortunately, leukemia was uncurable during that time, and he sadly passed away at age 23 on May 18th of 1963. To honor Davis, the Browns retired his number 45, and in 2008, director Gary Fletter and producer John Davis released a film about Davis's life called The Express: The Ernie Davis Story. It starred Rob Brown as Davis and Dennis Quaid as Coach Schwartzwalder. Tommy Frasier. Frasier really is one of the greatest NFL what-if stories. You will not find many quarterbacks with a better college football resume than Tommy Frasier. He led the Nebraska Cornhuskers to consecutive national championships in 1994 and 1995 and cleaned up at the awards ceremony in the latter year. That season, Frasier won the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm, Quarterback of the Year, and Big 8 Offensive Player of the Year honors. Over his 4 seasons in Nebraska, Frasier threw 43 touchdowns against only 11 interceptions. Though his passing totals weren't eye-popping, it's because he was an explosive runner with 1,955 rushing yards and 36 rushing scores in 35 college games. Remember how great Michael Vick, Cam Newton, and Dante Culpepper were in their primes as dual-threat quarterbacks? Oh yeah. Frasier totally could have been a human highlight reel like those guys. Frasier had experienced blood clots during the 1994 season at Nebraska, and unfortunately, those same blood clot issues resurfaced just ahead of the 1996 NFL Draft, scaring off every club from drafting him. Frasier signed with Montreal's CFL team that year and suited up for just 1 game in garbage time. Unfortunately, he later experienced a serious case of pneumonia and had to be hospitalized for treatment. Doctors gave Frasier blood thinners to treat the ongoing blood clot issues, but Frasier decided to put his health first and retired at the age of 22. Charlie Ward. When you think of great two-way professional athletes, Deion Sanders and Bo Jackson immediately come to mind. Ward would have been on that list if he had tried his hand at pro football, but the two-sport sensation instead enjoyed a stellar 11-year career in the NBA. You see, Ward starred as a quarterback and point guard for the Florida State Seminoles in the early 90s. Ward absolutely mopped up the competition at the 1993 College Football Awards ceremony, winning Heisman Trophy honors along with the Walter Camp Maxwell Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award and Quarterback of the Year honors. Ward led the Seminoles to a national championship in 1993, throwing for 3,032 yards, 27 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions to go along with 339 rushing yards and 4 rushing scores that year. Ward reportedly claimed that he would not go to the NFL unless he would be a first-round pick. But NFL teams weren't fully sold on his talents. So Ward subsequently declared for the 1994 NBA Draft and was selected 26th overall by the New York Knicks. Ward spent 10 seasons with the Knicks, helping them to an NBA Finals appearance in the 1999 season. He had brief stints with the San Antonio Spurs and Houston Rockets as well, averaging 6.3 points and 4.0 assists per game in his NBA career. Darren Davis. After playing second fiddle to older brother and 2,000-yard rusher Troy Davis in 1996, the other Davis took over as Iowa State's lead running back in 1997. Troy would be drafted in the 3rd round by the New Orleans Saints that same year, but he wound up carving out a successful career in the CFL instead. Darren immediately turned heads in 1997 with 1,005 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. Especially impressive considering that the Cyclones were lousy that year with a 1-10 record. Davis turned it up a notch in 1998, rushing for 1,000 1,166 yards and 7 touchdowns. Then, to put a cherry on top of his college career, he racked up 1,388 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns, totaling 1,548 yards and 16 touchdowns from scrimmage. In school history, only Troy Davis and Breece Hall have more rushing yards than Darren Davis. Surprisingly, however, nobody bothered to take a chance on Darren Davis in the 2000 NFL Draft. Like Troy, however, Darren would find success north of the border. He spent 4 seasons in the CFL, recording back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons with the Saskatchewan Roughriders in 2000 and 2001. Davis walked away from football entirely after the 2003 season. Jay Burwanganger. Burwanganger was a do-it-all football sensation at the University of Chicago from 1933 to 35. He played running back and linebacker and did return duties on the special teams unit. But Burwanganger did most of his damage as an RB. Burwanganger recorded 22 total touchdowns in 24 college football games, winning the Heisman Trophy in 1935 while earning unanimous All-American honors. Burwanganger also earned back-to-back first-team All-Big Ten, setting himself up to make special history. The first-ever NFL Draft was held in 1936. He was taken first overall by the Philadelphia Eagles, officially becoming the first draft pick in NFL history. Burwanganger, however, was traded to the Chicago Bears following a contract dispute with the Eagles. Burwanganger reportedly wanted $20,000 over 2 years from the Bears, but George Halas was not giving in. So Burwanganger walked away from football and instead worked in sales for a rubber company. He also briefly worked as a sports writer, later expressing regret for not joining the Bears. Yet another classic case of what could have been. Maurice Clarett. Unfortunately, Clarett got too ahead of himself and let his ego ruin his chances of becoming a star in the pros. Clarett had a season for the ages with the Ohio State Buckeyes in 2002, rushing for 1,237 yards and 16 touchdowns as a freshman. Clarett's efforts helped Ohio State to a national championship victory, with Jim Tressel's group defeating Miami in the big game to clinch the undefeated season. The Buckeyes suspended Clarett for the entire 2003 season after several heated altercations with Ohio State officials. In 2004, Clarett went to court to challenge the NFL's long-standing rule that a player must be 3 years removed from high school to enter the NFL Draft. Even though he hadn't played football since 2002, Clarett was drafted in the 3rd round, 101st overall by the Denver Broncos in 2005. Sure enough, he showed up notably overweight and was rusty and unproductive in preseason play. The Broncos released Clarett ahead of their Week 1 opener, and no NFL team bothered to take a chance on the player who would become a giant headache. In 2012, Clarett had a short-lived stint on the Omaha Nighthawks of the now-defunct United Football League. After years of legal troubles that led him to spending 3.5 years in prison, Clarett was able to clean up his act and became an advocate to help youths avoid the legal problems that derailed his NFL career. Now an advocate for mental health, Clarett has also become active in Ohio's political community. Jim Stillwagon. Stillwagon was a hulking 239-pound defensive tackle at Ohio State. Over his 3 years as a menace on their defense, Stillwagon led the Buckeyes to national championships in the 1968 and 1970 seasons. Stillwagon also won the 1970 Lombardi and Outland trophies, with a pair of first-team All-Big Ten selections on his resume. In 2000, he was also named to the Ohio State Buckeyes Football All-Century team. The Green Bay Packers ended up drafting Stillwagon in the 5th round in 1971. But he wasn't quite sold on playing in the NFL. And players in the CFL were offered similar, sometimes even greater sums of cash than NFLers back in those days. And Stillwagon decided that he's going to take his talents to the Great White North instead. Stillwagon signed with the CFL's Toronto Argonauts in 1971 and immediately emerged as one of the league's most destructive players. He earned 3 CFL All-Star selections before retiring early after the 1975 season. Jason White. White had an unusually long college football career, joining the Oklahoma Sooners program as a 19-year-old in 1999. White was on the 2000 Sooners squad that defeated Florida State in the national championship game, but he wouldn't take over as the full-time starter until 2003, following Nate Heibel's move to the NFL. White had a season for the ages in 2003, winning the Heisman Trophy after throwing for 3,846 yards and 40 touchdowns. He followed that up by winning his 2nd straight Davey O'Brien Award in 2004, along with Maxwell and Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award honors. But White's name was uncalled in the 2005 NFL Draft because of teams' concerns about his history of knee injuries. He eventually landed a contract with the Tennessee Titans, but those nagging knee issues prompted him to retire. The 2005 NFL Draft memorably featured the San Francisco 49ers ignoring Aaron Rodgers' warning and taking Alex Smith 1st overall. The future 4-time MVP somehow slipped all the way down to the Green Bay Packers at number 24, and, well, the rest is history. Rodgers, Smith, Kyle Orton, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Derek Anderson, and Matt Castle all Ball headlined the list of QBs who found some success in the NFL. Just too bad that White's body betrayed him and prevented a potentially special career in the pros. Felix Doc Blanchard. Blanchard started in the Army backfield from 1944 to 1946, recording 1,670 yards and 30 touchdowns. Again, back in those days, that was pretty dang impressive. Blanchard led Army to a national championship three-peat and won the 1945 Heisman Trophy after rushing for 722 yards and 16 touchdowns. The Pittsburgh Steelers drafted Blanchard third overall in 1946 after Notre Dame quarterback Frank Doncevich and Tulane running back Doug Jones went first and second overall respectively. The Steelers were coming off a lousy 2-8 season and had hoped that a player like Doc would be able to jumpstart the sluggish offense. But after he was drafted, Blanchard selflessly put away his football work in order to serve in the United States Air Force. Doc would reach the rank of second lieutenant in the Air Force and flew planes during the Korean and Vietnam Wars. He retired from the military in 1971 and later worked as the commandant of cadets at the New Mexico Military Institute. Pete Dawkins. Dawkins had an awfully similar career path to Doc Blanchard's. Like Blanchard, Dawkins was a star running back at Army for 3 years, from 1956 to 58. Like Blanchard, Dawkins won the Heisman Trophy in 1958 after recording 922 yards of offense and 11 total touchdowns as a running back and receiver. Dawkins would help the Black Knights to Eastern Championships in 1956 and 58. But he had no interest in pursuing an NFL career and wound up graduating from the United States Military Academy and later Oxford University. Dawkins would serve 2 decades in the military, earning the rank of Brigadier General. There, he served in the Vietnam War and earned 2 Bronze Star medals for his service. But hey, which other college greats never played a snap in the NFL? Were there any notable names that we may have missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, then hey, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then hey, subscribing is a great idea, because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.